Hello, welcome to Thor Talk, the show all about Marvel's resident God of Thunder. On this episode of Thor Talk, we'll look at why Chris Hemsworth will not be wearing a fat suit for upcoming Marvel movies, and we will not see Fat Thor return on Thor Talk.
I am Thor the Thunderer, son of Odin, prince of Asgard, and this world is under my protection.
Avengers Endgame surprised audiences with the reveal that Thor had become depressed and overweight as a result of the trauma from failing to stop Thanos. With Thor being set up for future stories at the end of Endgame, and rumors emerging of future films with Hemsworth's Thor, many have speculated if Thor will stay overweight for the remaining future of the MCU. After doing some research, I think that the answer to this question for the most part is no, and this all revolves around one person, Chris Hemsworth. First of all, there has been a common misconception that Chris Hemsworth was responsible for Fat Thor because he wanted a more comedic Thor like in Thor Ragnarok, but actually it was the writers and directors that came to Hemsworth with their pitch for Thor in Avengers Endgame. While Hemsworth did agree to this and worked with them with the intention of pushing the character in a new and different way, he admitted that he was hesitant as he wanted to keep doing the same Thor from Ragnarok and didn't want to give himself over to the demands of the directors. But in the end, he ended up doing just that.
The first 3-4 films, I felt like I completely gave myself over to sort of whatever their vision was. Looking back, I wish I'd spoken up at different times and this. And if only I came into those films and I was very protective of what the new Thor was. And I said, I don't want to go back to the old Thor and I want to keep doing this and so on. And then they said, well, we've got something different for you again. And at first I sort of hesitated and I thought, oh no, I'm going to lose control of it. But did sort of give into it, and then it became this wonderful collaboration. And
he did work with them and described it as a wonderful collaboration, but Fat Thor clearly wasn't his idea, his passion. But regardless of whether or not Hemsworth came up with the concept, the real question is, would he be willing to continue doing it with new directors and writers? And again, I think the answer is no. He does seem to consider this version of Thor as separate from the one he was doing in Ragnarok, and he was very eager to continue doing the Ragnarok version of Thor. Plus, to create this fat look of Thor was quite unpleasant and dangerous for Chris Hemsworth. When Anthony and Joe Russo were asked to describe any scares when filming the movie, the only thing they mentioned was Chris Hemsworth's issues while wearing the fat suit for Thor. They described how they were actually scared for Hemsworth's health. So he had to wear a bodysuit, and it was quite heavy. That suit started to wear on his back, which was scary when you have someone who has to be so physical. Furthermore, the fat suit provided more difficulties in the heat, as the suit didn't breathe very well and the Atlanta summer was brutal. Not to mention that despite the fact he was playing an overweight version of Thor, Hemsworth couldn't take a break on keeping in shape because of Infinity War's reshoots, meaning that he had to work hard to stay in shape just to appear incredibly overweight on screen. Plus, there's Hemsworth's fitness app, Center, which Hemsworth has spent years working on, and it has essentially been presenting itself as a way to stay fit like Hemsworth. Avengers Endgame doesn't exactly make that seem like a good thing. So, Hemsworth has plenty of motivation to want Fat Thor gone. But exactly how much does this matter? Well, it matters quite a lot, actually. Remember Thor's out-of-nowhere haircut in Thor Ragnarok? Hemsworth has since admitted that the reason that Thor got this haircut was just because Hemsworth was tired of wearing the wig.
Thor gets a little bit of a haircut.
does get a haircut. There's not a huge explanation, really. It was just kind of me going, I don't want to wear the wig every day. It takes 2 hours to put on. Which is why we secretly cut it in the third film, because I was just sick of wearing it.
Plus, unlike Thor's long hair, Fat Thor isn't exactly universally well liked. Some did like the change as they saw it as making Thor more relatable, but many others such as myself saw the change as disappointing and detrimental to the character. If Chris Hemsworth was able to pull off getting rid of Thor's long hair, which he has had in the comics for decades, and moviegoers seem to have no problem with, then Hemsworth should have no problem finding a way out of wearing the controversial fat suit in future movies. It's also incredibly possible and likely that Marvel already has no intention of continuing Fat Thor after he overcame the trauma of Thanos. but I think that the controversy and Hemsworth are enough to sway the future of the character, even if Marvel had planned otherwise. What we see next will probably be a lot closer to Thor Ragnarok than Avengers Endgame. Well, that's all for this episode of Thor Talk. If you want to keep up with and support Thor Talk, simply subscribe. Once again, I'd like to formally state that all art and video is owned by its respective companies, and I own none of it. With that said, see you next time on Thor Talk, where
you'll behold in breathless wonder.